This happened in October 2019 in a rented two-story house in Cedar Grove, Oregon. Quiet neighborhood. Families. No creepy reputation. I'm telling you that because I checked. After everything I needed to know if I'd missed something obvious. My name is Daniel Harper. At the time I was 31 and living alone. I worked late shifts as a delivery coordinator, which meant I usually cooked around midnight. That night started normal. Too normal. I remember washing my hands at the sink, staring at my reflection in the dark window. The kitchen light was on, but outside was pitch black. It felt like the house was floating in nothing. I brushed it off and turned to the cutting board. Chicken, garlic, onions. Same meal I'd made 100 times. That's when I heard the first sound. A soft scrape. Not a bang. Not footsteps. Just a slow dragging noise coming from behind me. From the pantry door. I froze with the knife still in my hand. The sound stopped the second I turned around. The pantry door was closed. No movement. No shadows under it. I laughed under my breath and told myself it was the fridge cycling. That's what you do when you don't want to look stupid to an empty room. I went back to cutting. The scrape came again. Longer this time. Like fingernails against wood. My stomach dropped. I could feel my pulse in my ears. I said out loud, "Hello," which is another stupid thing people do in scary situations. Nothing answered. I walked over and opened the pantry door. It was exactly how I'd left it. Canned food, cleaning supplies, nothing out of place. The smell hit me though. Rotting meat, faint but unmistakable. I slammed the door shut. That was when the knife slipped. I sliced my index finger deep enough that blood dripped onto the counter. I rushed to the sink, swearing running water over it. The drain caught the blood in a thin red spiral. As I wrapped my finger with a towel, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The pantry door was open again. I knew I hadn't touched it. Inside one of the shelves was sagging, and something was dripping onto the floor. Dark, thick drops. Not water. I didn't step closer. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my ribs. That's when the smell got stronger, and beneath it something else. Breathing. Not mine. Slow. Wet. Patient. I ran. Straight out of the kitchen up the stairs, and locked myself in the bedroom. I spent the night with the lights on, knife on the bedside table, convincing myself it was stress, exhaustion, imagination. By morning I almost believed it. Almost. Because when I went back downstairs, the kitchen was clean. Too clean. The cutting board washed. The knife back in its block. My bloody towel folded neatly on the counter. And the pantry door was locked from the inside. I didn't call the police. I regret that now. At the time I didn't want to sound insane. Instead I called my landlord, Mark Ellison, and told him something was wrong with the pantry door. He came by that afternoon. Mark was the kind of guy who joked through everything. He laughed it off, said old houses make old noises. But when he tried to open the pantry, his smile faded. It wouldn't budge. He put his shoulder into it. Nothing. The door frame creaked like it was under pressure from the other side. Mark stepped back and muttered that it felt sealed. We pried it open together. The smell hit us so hard we both gagged. Inside, the shelves were gone. In their place was a crawl space cut into the wall. Not part of the original layout. I knew that because I'd seen the blueprints when I rented the place. The crawl space was lined with plastic sheets, kitchen plastic wrap, hundreds of layers, and in the center was a mound. I won't describe everything. I still see it when I close my eyes. Human remains, old and new, some wrapped, some not. Teeth on the floor like spilled rice. And carved into the wall, scratched deep into the wood, were dates. Dozens of them. The most recent date was from the night before. My name was written underneath. Mark backed away and vomited into the sink. I couldn't move. I felt like the room had gone silent, like the house itself was holding its breath. The police came. So did forensics. They asked me the same questions over and over. Had I heard anything before? Had I noticed smells? Had anyone else lived with me? That's when they told me the truth. The previous tenant, a woman named Elaine Brooks, disappeared 3 years earlier. No body. No suspect. The case went cold. The house was cleaned, renovated, and rented again. To me, they believe whoever did this had access to the house even after she vanished. Someone who knew the layout. Someone who liked kitchens. Someone who used them. They never caught him. I moved out that week. I don't cook at night anymore. I don't keep pantry doors closed. And sometimes when my apartment is quiet and the fridge hum cuts out, I hear that scraping sound again. Slow, careful, like something is checking if I'm still there. I'm telling you this because it's real. Because kitchens feel safe until they don't. And because whatever was in that wall knew my routines before I did. I was just the next day waiting to be written. My name is Daniel Harper, 32 years old, recently divorced, working late shifts as a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing plant. Cooking was my way of staying sane. Most nights I came home after midnight, turned on the kitchen light, and made something simple. Eggs, pasta, coffee strong enough to keep my thoughts quiet. The kitchen itself was old but clean. White cabinets from the 90s, a narrow window above the sink, and a faint hum from the refrigerator that never quite stopped. The house had belonged to an elderly couple before me. They both passed away within a year of each other. Natural causes, according to the realtor. The first strange thing happened on a Tuesday night. I came home around 1:40 a.m. I clearly remember locking the front door, placing my keys on the counter, and going straight to the fridge. When I opened it, I noticed something that made me pause. A cutting board was already on the counter. Wet, like it had just been washed. I lived alone. I hadn't cooked that morning. I told myself I probably forgot. Exhaustion messes with memory. I rinsed the board again, put it away, and cooked my food. While eating, I heard a soft sound behind me. A slow, deliberate scrape. The kitchen drawer. I turned around, fork in hand, and saw the drawer beneath the stove pulled open by about 2 inches. My heart started racing, but I laughed it off. Old houses settle. Wood expands. That's what I told myself. Over the next 2 weeks, things escalated. Cabinet doors left open when I woke up. The smell of raw meat in the air when there was none in the fridge. Once I found a knife placed neatly in the center of the kitchen table, blade facing my chair. The worst part wasn't fear. It was confusion. Everything felt intentional, careful, like someone knew my routines. One night, I set up my phone to record video while I slept. I aimed it toward the kitchen entrance. 8 hours later, I reviewed the footage. Nothing moved, except at 3:17 a.m. The audio picked up a faint sound first. Breathing. Slow. Close. Then for exactly 7 seconds, the kitchen light turned on by itself. The camera couldn't see inside the kitchen, but I could hear something being dragged across the floor. Heavy. Wet. The light turned off. Silence. I didn't sleep after that. The next evening, I decided to confront whatever was happening. I stayed awake in the living room, lights off, kitchen light on. I sat there from midnight to almost 3 a.m., gripping a baseball bat like it could save me. At 3:16, the refrigerator door opened. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. And that's when I heard a voice. Not loud, not threatening, just a whisper from inside the kitchen. He never locked it either. I ran, but the kitchen wasn't empty. I froze at the edge of the doorway, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was pushing air out of my lungs. The refrigerator door was wide open, cold light spilling across the floor, and standing between the counter and the sink was a man I had never seen before. He was tall, thin, wearing stained kitchen gloves and an apron that looked decades old. His hair was gray and patchy, his eyes sunken and alert. But what terrified me most was how calm he looked, like he belonged there. He slowly turned toward me and smiled. "You're later than the others," he said. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My body refused to move. He gestured toward the counter. That's when I noticed the smell. Rotting meat. Blood. On the cutting board was something wrapped in plastic. Human-shaped. Small. "I keep things tidy," he continued. "They liked it that way." I ran out of the house barefoot, bat, forgotten phone, left behind. I didn't stop until I reached my car. I drove straight to the police station. They took my statement seriously, more seriously than I expected. When officers returned to the house with me, the kitchen was spotless. No blood, no man, no smell. They almost dismissed the whole thing until one officer noticed something odd. A loose panel beneath the sink. Behind it was a narrow crawl space leading under the house. Inside they found knives, old ID cards, jewelry, and remains. The man's name was Edward Collins. Turns out he was the husband of the woman who used to own the house, officially declared dead years ago. In reality, he had been hiding beneath the house after suffering a mental break following his wife's death. He believed the kitchen was still hers, that he was preparing meals for guests who never came. The neighbors later admitted they heard noises at night, thought it was raccoons or pipes. Edward had been coming up through the sink cabinet while I slept, using my kitchen, watching me. When the police found him, he didn't resist. He just asked one question: did I clean up well enough? I moved out the next day. I threw away everything from that house. Even now, years later, I can't stand the sound of a refrigerator opening at night. I don't cook after dark. I don't leave knives out. And I always check beneath the sink. Because sometimes when I'm alone in a quiet kitchen, I swear I can still smell raw meat. And I remember his smile. This is not a story meant to scare you. This really happened. The police reports exist. The house was condemned shortly after. And if you ever feel like someone has been in your kitchen when you weren't home, don't ignore it. Lock your doors, check your cabinets, and never assume you're alone.